Hi, I'm Justin.
Also, I hate the way my voice sounds, so if you can do whatever Photoshop does to voices, make me sound awesome.
And this is my lovely friend,
The beauty in the eyes of the beholder, and it's just about getting into the seat of being the beholder.
Hayley.
I don't think you have to be particularly perceptive. I just think you have to look up.
This podcast is mostly just her telling me stories.
If you expose yourself to the possibility that this might be really awkward, there can be something just really cool on the other side of it.
She thinks that her life and way of looking at things are
Oh, I was kind of waiting on you. I thought you were getting your stuff ready. You're waiting on me?
pretty normal.
You got to edit out all the misinformation about the Amish.
Maybe you can relate
I would like a chance to re-sing the Amish Paradise.
if you want lighthearted stories
All right, you want to talk about goats?
and stream of consciousness.
I just woke up and needed some friends, and so I bought them.
Then you're gonna like the Sunny Side Up podcast.
Sunny side up, sunny side up, sunny side up, sunny side up.
So, if you're at all like me, you may feel that you're living in a world that can be a bit overwhelming and confusing at times. I'm also a huge fan of podcasts, documentaries, docudramas, stories, and of just information in general. Between all of that and the social media and news, sometimes our brains can feel like they're on overload. Hayley and I hope that this podcast can be something of an antidote to all of that. Like little jello shots of joy and distraction. None of it is too serious or really too informative. Mostly it's just two friends who have conversational chemistry talking about whatever enters the minds of relatively ADHD people. We hope you enjoy.
Can we bounce back to a thing that we mentioned? We veer off topic. Okay.
Wait, we veer off topic?
Never. Not
what
us.
podcast
No.
are you talking about? Okay, is it Kennedy? What was the...
Yes.
Okay.
When you were talking about Kennedy, I remembered a thing, and and this may be common knowledge to everybody else, but it's new to me. Okay. John F. Kennedy had an adrenal disorder, right? So he had to take the corticosteroids or whatever it was he was taking.
By the way, you know the old saying of if your only tool is a hammer, everything looks like a nail?
Me and adrenal glands. Sir Jarvie. Well, they are everywhere. They do produce a lot of hormones that affect most systems of the body.
And I love that you're on it, because even if your only tool is a hammer, it feels like there's a lot of nails around.
Also, I'm not projecting in this case. He was diagnosed. I think it was Addison's disease, but I can't be sure.
You're gonna have wherever you're going with the story. It's not surprising that story impacted you, because you're learning about adrenal glands because it affected you
when you're
and your
aware,
family.
you'll see it
right,
everywhere.
you see it everywhere. It's like by the blue car. Anyway, so tell me,
Yeah, so in this one, I'm talking about presidential debates, actually. So he had an adrenal disorder, so he had to take these medications, and the side effect of one of those medications was a healthy-looking glow, almost like you were tanned, and it made him look particularly spry, even though he was younger and handsome anyway.
Yeah.
But the medication that he was taking to stay alive for this adrenal disorder, that was one of the side effects. And the reason why it was kind of helpful is because, was it Nixon he was debating? Kennedy was running against Nixon, right?
I think so.
No,
wasn't it?
I think it was, and it was the first televised presidential debate.
Yeah.
So people were listening on the radio, and people were watching on TV.
Yes.
The people who listened to the radio thought that Nixon had better points and won the debate. People who watched it on TV thought that Kennedy won the debate, because Kennedy, having his condition and taking his medications, had this fresh glow, which it was black and white, but you could tell a healthy looking kid, well rested. He'd been hanging out in a hotel for a couple of days and was spry and handled himself really well on camera. Nixon was recovering from a terrible illness. I think had just been discharged from the hospital and was maybe even sweating and not looking his best. He showed up, but it wasn't his best. So results of the debate significantly varied, and a large contributing factor was that you said a cocktail of drugs. They weren't all bad. They weren't all recreational. Some of it was to keep him alive, and it helped him. To the television audience, he still won, but the radio audience maybe might have voted otherwise. But that was kind of cool.
That was, I do remember hearing, now that you say it, that because of the way he presented on TV made a huge difference for his campaign. And he was just like this handsome, sort of charismatic guy, and like his whole family, like, you know, Jacqueline and just the way they presented to the world. They were just they were youthful and fresh and sort of hopeful. And what a great time to be all of that, and what was becoming quickly being rewind. What a useful thing to be in a society that was becoming very visually stimulated through television media. Like, It was a really good time for that.
The new lens.
Yeah, because I'm thinking before that, I guess I don't know what the presidents look like, but it mattered less what you look like before him.
Sadly.
Probably. Yeah.
Because we had some major uggos out there. But also some dope ass sideburns. Like, we had some
who had like the best mutton chops in the world.
Bring sexy back. Mutton chops for everybody. Bring it back.
Justin Timberlake's got nothing on whoever the mutton chop president was. I would think
Martin Van Buren had some good ones.
Martin Van Buren, thank you. Good mutton chops.
Was it Chester Arthur, maybe?
Okay. Maybe so.
And honestly, probably several of them. Their presidential photo was only a moment in time. They all probably experimented with a handsome haircut at one time or another. But
absolutely.
Presidential hotties, let's rank them.
Let's rank them.
This is going to be our new bracket.
It's weird because, you really think of Jack Kennedy, because really since then, I can't think of anybody who was like traditionally is like sort of like terribly good looking. Obviously, Obama may, you know what? I take that back. I think although he was old, give what's his face, Reagan, because he was an actor. He was a handsome man, so I'll take that back.
He was a man at certain times. Was he when he was running for president? They say historically the more attractive candidate would win.
Does win?
Yeah, and so.
Ooh, I gotta think about this. Okay, so Bush v. Gore, I'd give that to Bush. Bush is a better looking guy.
And Clinton v.
Who was Clinton versus?
Dole, and Clinton v. Who was the other guy? But Dole, who ran against Kemp? And Kerry, John Kerry versus what? George Bush, or was that Obama? They're both Democrat. That would have been Bush.
Yeah.
And John Kerry might have been okay had he not done the fake tan orange thing.
Yeah.
And what's handsome is so subjective, and it changes over time.
I know.
You can look at movies and Tim will say, what happened in this era where all of a sudden we went from macho leading men to like sweater wearing bookish types, and then almost like a metrosexual softer, like it. There's such a shift in the standard. Yes. I would hate to be the person who has to actually go through and say most handsome. Is that today's standard or is that day's standard?
Tough. Well, and when you're picking between presidents, I don't think you're picking between like GQ covers. You're picking between like, two maybe fairly regular looking guys, and you're saying which one is slightly better, is edging the other one out a little bit or something. Yeah, I don't know.
Which one would we rather look at on our currency is what we should be asking. Ooh. And the answer is never Andrew Jackson, and yet we haven't done anything about that.
Oh, fair.
Troubling.
What a dude, man. Andrew Jackson.
Genocide.
Well,
Andrew Genocide Jackson.
Andrew Genocide Jackson. And just like as a dude, he was very he was a nasty guy to deal with. Like he was not a pleasant fellow to deal with, if I remember my
multiple
history.
Duels.
Yeah, multiple duels.
A lot of military history.
Yeah. But did he get into like fisticuffs or something on the actual like White House steps or something? Anyways, yeah, he was an interesting cat. For sure.
Not my favorite.
No.
Hello, lovely friends. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And it would mean the world if you would tell other people about this podcast and maybe even spam your social media accounts with just how much you're enjoying it. If you are, of course. Also, commenting and rating us on whatever platform you're downloading or streaming from is incredibly helpful to a little startup podcast like this one. On the other hand, if you are dissatisfied with your listening experience, please leave all of that hate on someone else's podcast. Just maybe to confuse them a little bit, right? But most of all, we hope you keep looking up and looking for the sunny side of life.